Hello, everybody. This is Dan Eisenberg. This is Scale App Podcasts, and we're getting close. This is not quite number 30, but we're getting close. As you all know, this is a serious hobby for me. I'm excited about having these podcasts and presenting them. This is my way of exploring, together with you, the mystery of how companies grow and trying to make it not a mystery, trying to demystify it so that it becomes useful and relevant for all of you. So, as you know, in Scale App Podcasts, we have a huge variety of companies. As long as they've gotten past a few $1 million in revenues, there are different sectors, there are different geographies, there are different stages of life. And I'm really excited to have with me one of our ScaleratorT&T or Scale Up TT alumni. She's an alumna, Reshma Advani Rojas. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Reshma. Just say
Perfect.
well. Perfect. Okay, perfect. We'll accept perfect. And well, she'll tell you about her company, so I won't say any more right now. But she's based in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. We've already had one alumnus who's been interviewed, GISCAD, the two co-founders of GISCAD. But here we have a very different business, advanced commercial.
Equipment.
Thank you. ACEL, is that right?
That's right.
Um, and uh, so, first of all, Reshma, I'd like to start off with a little bit of maybe a surprising question that I ask everybody, and that is ignore the business. Don't say anything about the business and tell us who you are.
I talk too much and it's worked out really well for me.
Well, I hope you'll talk too much in this podcast, but say a little bit more about you, who you are, your background, anything that helps us get to know you a little bit.
I was raised at the knee of the founder of the company. My father started the company in his early 80s when he moved to Trinidad. He's originally from India and came across with the typical migrant story. He came and he started over in an entirely new place. And so I've been purpose built to run commercial restaurant equipment businesses my whole life. So I didn't really have anything besides this to focus on. What I guess is about me and less about the business is I discovered I had a natural talent for facilitating people and relationships. And that's what became my superpower. And I consistently use that to have people, consistently connect with each other in all realms.
So, this is a family business,
It
multi-generation.
was.
Well, okay, we'll get into that. It's changed,
Yeah.
but it's a multi-generational, at least two generational business. Uh, and uh, you are also a Scalerator alumna, as we already mentioned. The So let's get into the business. Tell us about what is advanced commercial, and give us the sort of elevator pitch.
Sure. The 5-second overview is we sell commercial restaurant supply equipment, accessories, and parts. So think about going to a fast food fried chicken place or a pizza shop or anything. The machines that make those business is what I sell. The accessories you need to finish that food service product is what I sell. So we touch a wide range of industries from cafeterias to army bases to all sorts of different things beyond your traditional brick and mortar food service establishment. And that has been our bread and butter for 40 years.
So you are not a manufacturer. Is that accurate?
No, I'm not.
You're,
I
you're
deal with top tier brands and bring those into the Caribbean market. But we are very much a niche company because we're not the kind of it disappears in 3 years. These brands have hundreds of years of excellence and are known worldwide. So we're very niche because we approach it very specifically. It's quality.
and it's a professional market. It's not the consumer, not primarily the consumer market. Is that correct?
I mean, with the advent of COVID and the cooking sourdough fanatics, you'd be surprised how many walk-in customers we have. But yes, primarily our business is commercial enterprise.
So these are the like me, the pandemic cook wannabes
Yes.
who have a lot of free time and they're locked in their houses, so they need to do something a little more interesting. Well, that's great. And so, t tell us just a little bit about what it is what's it like being in a multi-generational family business and having your father be the entrepreneur in this case, creating the business, and then growing up inside the company? I think you told me that actually as a little girl you used to spend time, and I think you've brought your own kids
That's right.
in as well as when they're very young into the shop, so to speak.
That's right.
What's that
So
like?
I mean, legacy is complicated, right? There's a lot of expectation from a second generation or third generation to uphold or maintain the legacy someone has built for you. My father built an incredibly successful business from literally the ground up. And you're right, I spent a lot of time in the store as a kid, that made it difficult sometimes for me to transition into being the owner. We discussed this a
Why?
little in Scale Up
Yeah, why is that?
about
What difficulty?
some of the employees have been there longer than I've been considered a legal adult. And it's challenging when you have that transition between the boss's daughter becoming the boss. There's a bit of discontent sometimes about the nepotism aspect of it, but there is also a sensation of they absolutely love you and they're very loyal to you, but they just can't take you seriously.
This is the little girl who used to hang around the office, and now she's grown up and is a woman, and she's telling us, maybe not telling us what to do, but she's making the decisions, right?
But there was also a lot of change with that. My father understood that he was a man who came from a simple education
Mm.
and really wanted me to go further than he ever had. And I take that to heart. Being in Scale Up is a big part of that. I think it's a continuous process. And with that comes change. And with change sometimes comes stress, a little bit of opposition.
Can you give an example?
So the guy who's my general manager was actually in Scale Up. He participated actively. Real good guy, loyal to the company, been there 30 plus years. But he used to take me for ice cream when I was a kid. Like I would come to the store and he'd walk me to the street corner. We'd go to McDonald's, get a soft serve, come back. Now, many years later, I am guiding him as to how he should be operating in his job, what changes he has to make, suggesting new strategies to him. And he has been very open to it, but it took a minute for him to switch gears from patting me on the head to like sitting in a boardroom with me.
And how did you deal with that? And what were the things that you did that made that easier, that transition easier?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I do not approach, like my leadership style is not dictatorial. I believe very much in kind of getting people to have a seat at the table and everybody having a say or a vote to a certain degree. And I think for the first time, someone listened to them and was not directing them what to do, but rather having a more collaborative approach. When he realized he had an open space where he could safely speak about his ideas without being discredited or feeling like it was out of place. And I took some of those ideas very seriously and engaged them in my business.
Was this a different style from your father's?
Very. My dad is an old school guy and he's the boss and you're the worker. And he says what you do and you do it. And not to say that he does not have unbelievable loyalty from, you know, staff up to this day. He was what they called a handshake guy, like his word was his bond.
So that you've taken a kind of like a more of a soft power approach. I'm not sure that's the right word, but
It is. I actually am doing a lecture on Saturday about soft skills in enterprise, particularly with all the technology changes that are coming, that we've forgotten sometimes those soft skills are a critical part of how we grow a company culture
how did you learn those when your father had a different style?
because he made the effort to educate me. My job was not to copy and paste his leadership style. Father was a bright enough man to know that there's more than one way to, do something, and he sent me off to learn those things.
Oh, so he knew that the next generation, so to speak, would have to be different than
Yeah,
himself. So that was,
one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet because he knew his limitations. And I've taken that very much to heart, where I understand that there's no way possible for one person to know everything. And I continuously keep updating and adjusting my leadership style to new information being presented to me that I think is worthwhile.
that's, I have to ask this question. I'm ambivalent about asking it. But does any of this have to do with being a woman? And
Yes, very much so.
explain.
Being a brown woman in the Caribbean is twofold, right? So especially if it's, in my case, it's Indian culture, right? So the fathers pass on to the sons, not the daughters. Poor fella, he got two girls. But there's also that conversation about the idea of colonialism, that foreign is better and fairer is better. And that is often a challenge for us to be taken seriously on the world stage or even the regional stage.
Fairer meaning lighter skinned.
Yes, there's a whole construct in the Caribbean about whether if you put two people up who have the exact same education, the exact same abilities, the exact same resumes, but one looks one way and has an accent and one doesn't, is that where's the defining factor there? That's actually what I'm doing my doctorate on, is the idea of colonialism and its impact on how we engage both female and domestic leadership versus always outsourcing our intelligence to first world countries and foreign is better.
So where does there's a big Indian population
Yeah.
in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Where does
Yeah.
that fit into the total unbelievable rainbow of different ethnicities there?
I think there's a fantastic mix. I mean, you interviewed the Just Gad guys the other day. We're both Trini, but we look very different. We represent very different parts of diaspora here. And we have Indian and Chinese and Black and white and Asian, but those things have become so intermixed over the years that it's very difficult for you to find a pure anything in Trinidad, which gives us such a groundbreaking view of the world because we're not trapped by the societal norms of a specific culture or ethnicity.
Mhm. So just talking about the gender part of it for a minute, what are some of the things that you did to either take advantage of that or overcome maybe some of the perceived disadvantages of that, especially in industrial business?
Yeah, it's 90% men in my line of work. And as a result, very early on, when I used to go to these I still do go to these trade shows in the US and in Europe, I would be one of 10 women in the room, much less when I first started in my early 20s, very different time then. And what I would often do is I'd soften people up by asking them leading questions as though they were the experts and I was learning from them. And it was a very political move on my part
Mhm,
because people like to talk about themselves.
mhm.
And in so doing, the deference they showed me as maybe a woman or a child disappeared because I was asking them very leading business questions about how they ran their own business. Then they started speaking as an expert and stopped treating me like a woman. They started treating me like a person they were guiding or counseling. Over the years, that transformation has been now that they treat me as an equal rather than as the girl in the room or somebody's daughter. They're now treating me as a person who has had years of experience of my own. And they come to me instead and ask, well, what did you do?
So let's transition and talk a little bit just about the business per se. I think I'm curious about a number of things. First of all, an import, let's call it distribution business, in the professional market is not typically what the world thinks of as entrepreneurship. I think it's mistaken, but it's not typically. They think of the technology businesses where you have a bunch of people coding, developing some technology and selling that technology, raising venture capital, and so on and so forth. Um, how do you build a scalable business from from not having product differentiation per se? You're representing other manufacturers. You're distributing and serving their products. How do you succeed in doing that, and how do you grow it?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with brand identity and being really crystal clear about what that brand identity is, because
Good.
you can distribute anything. And I often use cars as an analogy. There's some like top five brands out there that everybody knows their names, and there's 100 people who sell 100 variations of that car. But if you can differentiate yourself through your service, the fact that you're acknowledging their pain points rather than just hard selling them something, and that you do consistent follow up and you show them that you are just as invested in their success as you are in your own, that the sale doesn't stop when the sale closes. The sales continues as a relationship between us and you, that you are successful makes us successful, is how our entrepreneurship really came about.
Hmm. Say a little more about the value add, and I'll mention also that I had a tour of your facility. Uh, it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
I can say I felt really good there, and there were some surprises like the forge. So say a little bit
Yeah.
about that, and is that something that is an intentional part of a strategy?
100%. That is a bit of a Pinterest fever dream. The women in the audience may be more aware of what Pinterest is than the men, but it's basically a digital mood board. And it's not a new concept. I've been to demonstration kitchens all over the world before where they would have this white box and a couple of metal tables and whatever oven they were trying to sell you. You'd make a steak or some mashed potatoes and you'd eat it and they'd go, now you see how it works. And I really wanted to bring something that was much more immersive to the market. So in my mind, the Forge is immersed of its kind, first of its kind.
Explain what it is.
So the Forge is we're deeming it a culinary demonstration space, an experimental kitchen. It is a place for us to do the actual selling process extension. So I had a customer the other day come in and say, listen, I'm a taco place, but I want to add fried chicken to my menu. Sure, bring your chicken. And we fried the chicken and fried the chicken and fried the chicken till we got to the end point he had in his head. We made that a concrete reality to him, and then we were able to sell him the pieces in between that made that a reality.
So, and
Uh,
this is it's a very attractive high-end space, right?
it is. It looks like a restaurant in Miami or New York. It's not something that is the Caribbean version. I'm bold enough to say that I think I could stick this in Soho somewhere and it would fit right in.
It's world class.
I
And how does social media fit in there? The sort of
A
the
huge part.
say more.
Our social media team is a contracted company, but they might as well just be with us because they are so supportive. They're a company called Infinite Marketing, women owned, women dominated, which I'm quite proud of. And she's another transition story. Like she was actually a practicing attorney and wanted to find another way to express herself. And she came up with that in the creative field. And she has been such a great partner to us because the social part of it is telling the story of the kitchen. We do classes with professional chefs. We train kids. Most recently, we rewrote an entire menu for a school cafeteria. And that's not possible if you don't have this kind of living, breathing space that takes a very boring product like a fridge, a stove, a mixer, and turns it into something that interacts with people. And that
And,
social brings that part of it to life.
and the social is so you're posting this on the various media platforms.
We are, yeah.
Okay.
TikTok, Instagram, every kind of book and chat and whatever else we're around. But we also make it very accessible via LinkedIn. If somebody wants to talk to me directly, they can message me. There's no barriers to entry, and we make ourselves as individuals as well as a team very accessible to the public.
So and you're selling throughout the Caribbean, is that accurate or a part of the
We
Caribbean?
have, yeah. I
Explain
took
how that
over
works.
about 5.5 years ago from my dad and made some very sweeping changes in a short tenure, and then COVID hit. So what happened was I said, you know what, there has to be more opportunities out there that we haven't quite tapped yet. And we just started going on trade shows, trips on our own, calling people, traveling, just old school selling. And since then, we have expanded. In 5 years, we are now in 14 countries. And that's right up and down the entire Eastern Caribbean.
And can you just give us a rough idea of revenues in US dollars? Is it 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15? And
You mean like the split percentage wise right now,
no,
40%?
overall, yeah,
Oh, you mean how
yeah,
much dollars are we actually
yeah,
making?
roughly, just ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I think ballpark, we're looking at about maybe 30 million
That's
where
significant.
we're at.
Not to mention that's obviously quite a significant number. Now, I understand that very recently there was some changes in the ownership structure and in the strategy. So tell us about that.
sometimes you're put between a rock and a hard place when you have a family or a legacy business. Because in Trinidad, we would say it's left to right pocket. You know, every time you make a little money, you spend the money back. And there's only so much you can do when you're self-sustaining or self-financing. It was 100% ownership by single entity. And there was no other way for us to really start getting capital in the door without immediately having to spend the money we had just made. So it was this kind of cyclical motion. About halfway through Scale Up, actually, I was approached by a team of people at an international trade show who said, you know, we've been looking at you, and we like what you're doing, and we want to have a conversation. My hackles went up. I was like, what do you want? And they were very gentle about it. They said, listen, we are from a different part of the world, but culturally, you all have more in common with us than you do the Americans. And I think that that's something we can have a conversation on. So long story short, a venture capitalist company that works specifically in this field, in the hospitality field, said, you're doing a good job. We like you. We want to buy into it. We think we can help you because we have assets and access you don't, like IT, infrastructure, training. And we expect that will give you the boost you need to, on your own, become profitable. Because they're not propping us up. It's not a tap doesn't just open and money starts to flow. They're investing in training us to make money by ourselves.
And they're taking a part of the ownership in
They are.
the
So
company.
they will buy into the shares of the company. For the first time, somebody outside of somebody with the last name Advani will own shares of the company. And in exchange, they will take dividends from the profitability agreement we have made to be able to recoup their investment in us.
Got it. And how's that transition from being owned by yourselves, your family, and having an outside owner? And I'm not asking right now about the emotional part of it. I'm asking now about the technical part of it. Were you ready for that from a legal perspective, from a data perspective, or did that force you to organize the information in a different way, create data rooms, or clean up maybe some of the legacy legal issues that might not have been clear?
All of the above.
Okay.
First and foremost, I had to hire lawyers in 3 separate countries. That was the first for me. But also, I had to take a hard inward look and say, look, they've asked for a list. Here's a checklist. They want to see your books. They want to see your inventory. Like, am I ready for this? Do I have this? Is this work I have to do before? Or am I saying, listen, this is where we're at. You have to help me get there. And there was a lot of looking at the organization in like Lego blocks. I had to look at all the building pieces, then the next, then the next. And it taught me to go back to fundamentals. And that's what we did first. We went back to the fundamentals and said, you know, no organization is functional without the people that make that thing a living, breathing organism. So we started there. And starting there is what has now, we're now into month 2 of announcing the acquisition. And it's really changed the way that people are thinking because, I mean, you know, you would say in your training courses, you'd say, you know, you have to have KPIs and you should measure things. And we never did any of that. Once we were in black, we were happy.
Right. So let me give you just a hypothetical example. Writing job descriptions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had written job descriptions before, but I imagine you had to create them now. Was that type of thing, was that a pain in the neck, or was that an opportunity to sort of get to the next level?
Oh no, it was fantastic because, like I said, we have some legacy employees in play. And they chose a very interesting way of dealing with things because they said, listen, this is going to be a shock to the system of the entire company because we are not just inheriting a company. We're shutting down aspects of your company and starting over. And one of those things that they were shutting down was our approach to, let's simplify it by saying the HR component. I think Elaine was a big factor in that as well for us.
Elaine is one of our Scalerator faculty. We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Oh, she was amazing. She lights a lot of fires in people. And when we had the discussion with them, they said, listen, we're going to do the right thing by people. We're going to make sure that everybody has a nice, comfortable exit from Advance because we're keeping the brand and we're keeping the name, but we're not keeping the company structure. So we are going to tell everyone, here's your exit package, and you can apply for the new jobs. So
Wow.
even people, like I had to reapply for my job. I now have a board of directors that I respond to, which is a new experience for me. And we all had to reapply for our jobs. And we're in the process right now of those things being assessed and who's being onboarded and who's still in movement because they're doing it in a phased, measured way.
But that
But
reapp
writing a job description was new.
so that reapplication for you, um,
Yes.
that I imagine that's not something that was forced on you, but that you decided
Yes. So the part
participated
of the
willingly in this.
negotiation was when we're buying this company, we're also buying your brand, your connections, your network, your visibility in the market, and your local know-how and expertise. So there was a very generous program for me to have some sort of equity in the process, as well as be compensated better than I would have ever been able to compensate myself. But their strategy is, again, Scale Up came at such a sweet time because their strategy is that they're motivating all of us in the new structure to have, you get a salary, that's fine, but we're going to give you measurable KPIs and gate systems to open more and more bonuses based on your achievement of those KPIs.
What I want to get at here, and because I don't think they can, the listeners can necessarily see your body language, is that this sounds like something that you willingly participated in, not something that was foisted upon you. And even though it might have been difficult, my impression anyway is that it was a very welcome difficulty. It was a challenge that allowed you to lift yourself up, so to speak, to a next level.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we had already started Scalerator, right? So we were like maybe into the first couple of classes. So we had already signed on for this kind of change without anyone being involved. What this did is it gave us not just the push, but some support for the structure because it's a lot, right? If you participate in Scalerator and you say you learn all these amazing things, you're open to it, you already are. But it can be overwhelming to dismantle your business and then start to really put those things into practice. You learn so much in a short period of time, your vision can get diluted. You're trying to do everything, that doesn't work. What it does now is it goes, listen, we're all for Scalerator. We like the program. We support what they taught. Now let's make that actionable by breaking it into pieces. And we're going to start with people.
And actually breaking it and rebuilding it. So
Correct.
you've now mentioned Scalerator a few times. So let's now talk specifically or explicitly about Scalerator, which, as at least some of my listeners, you out there know, Scalerator is a program that we created as part of an economic development methodology as one piece. And that piece of Scalerator takes teams of companies, owners and their teams, and gives them tools and frameworks and the sort of stage to grow their business in a systematic way. So tell us a little bit, and it takes place around roughly 5 to 6 months and involves four very, very intense 2-day workshops, plus a lot of other activities. And then afterwards, you've created a Scalerator Alumni Association. So we'll talk about all those things. But first of all, what did you and your team get out of Scalerator that you think
I
was
think
really
the
valuable?
biggest win for us is a really small thing. The biggest win is that people were all speaking the same language. I can't remember which of the instructors, it might have been you, specifically spoke to the idea that progress means different things to different people. And if you don't define what progress is, it's almost impossible for everybody to be on the same page. Scalerator really drove down into that conversation. And when we had to do assessments, we realized that none of us had the same definition of the words. What is profitability? What is success? What is entrepreneurship? And that was quite shocking to me because I just kind of made a lot of assumptions about we were all operating from the same playbook, and we definitely were not. That was the biggest game changer for me.
So it's all kind of alignment of terms and objectives and processes, the alignment of your entire team around that. Sounds like that was one of the
How do
big
you get to an objective if nobody's speaking the same language? Imagine being in the UN and everybody's voting on something, but nobody understands what the question was that was asked. We had to get that to that point before we could actually make any key decisions about implementing other sides of the strategy. And that was a big trigger mechanism for us.
And we focus in Scalerator on the three C's: customers, capacity, which is basically people and organization and culture, and cash, which is resources for growth. Reflect in which of those C's do you think you had the most surprising benefits?
I think culture for me, we're really good on the cash side. And I knock on wood for the fact that we have a fantastic finance team. And everything that we got from you guys on cash was a fine tuning of some systems that were already in place. I think what was amazing was the culture side of it. Because again, coming from a legacy firm, the culture is an inherited one. And what happens when you want to tweak or adjust that culture, or in our case, kind of rebuild that culture from the ground up? So it gave us some really good guardrails as to what to expect and how to deal with those challenges, and then how to implement new thinking going forward.
Great. And of course, we're going to hopefully have many more cohorts of Scalerator T&T to come. You've also created an alumni organization. What's that all about?
We're excited. We've established the Scalerator Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and we've already kind of launched it on the back of me launching Odin as our new parent company. That's their name. So you'll see some of that coming out of us. But we already were having a big party, lots of people, lots of snacks. So we invited the Scalerator Association board to that event, and we were able to make a formal announcement. It was fantastic and so well received. People started asking me immediately, what's Scalerator? How do I join? What do I do? It's like, we'll get there. So we are very driven by the education aspect of it, getting our members to, kind of keep up with each other, see where we can help each other, make sure no one's kind of stuck. Because you can do the program, but what about the aftermath?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, is to continue that support and continue that drive for us to improve alongside each other, as well as integrate our resources.
And you have a common language, you have a common experience in Scalerator, you have common objectives of growing. And it sounds like this is in part building community of support, because a lot of times scaling up is a lonely activity. This makes it less lonely, and there's more information sharing, more idea sharing, more just I don't know if hand holding is the right word or not, but
Sometimes.
sometimes even hand holding.
We actually have a global entrepreneurship week, is the second week of November. And we're actually doing an online seminar already called From Seed to Scale, the role of capital, customers, and community in scaling. So we're very reminiscent of our initial teachings. We're kind of echoing that, but customizing it to what we think the people who have gone through the program might require.
Well, let us know if you need one of the faculty to
We're
zoom in
happy
for
to
a few
have
minutes.
you.
Yeah, that sounds like a very relevant kind of activity. So this is great, Reshma. We have to keep these a little bit short, because these are the sort of fingerprint, if you will, of Scale App podcasts, is that people can turn it on as they get in their car to go to the supermarket, and they're done by the time they get home to unpack the bags. But I do want to address the issue of the next generation.
Yes.
So do you see your own children going in the business, or are they going to choose for themselves? And if they do, what advice would you give them? And if they don't, if they say, I want to go off and do something on my own, what would you tell them?
Well, I actually have a very specific scenario. I asked my daughter, who's only 10, if she wanted to take over the business. She goes, yes. But I also want to be a cardiologist and own my own hospital because she saw a 10-second clip of Grey's Anatomy and assumed that all the doctors owned their own hospitals. And I love that ambition for her. I love that sense of being able to make her choices and be supported. So what I've done is already planned my exit strategy from this. I'm 4 years retained as full-time CEO. I'm 4 years retained as regional CEO, where I will be moving to another territory. And then after that, we're going to do employee ownership. So we're going to give the shares to the employees. I will retain equity for my founding principles and guiding hand and what have you. But yeah, we're going to give it to them and tell them this is yours to do with as you think is the right path forward.
So really, you're making it easier for your daughter to say, I want to go off and do something else.
I am. And if she decides she wants to get into the business, I will not force that upon the organization. I think just like I had to, she's gonna have to interview, see if she's qualified.
She can apply for the
She
can
can apply, yeah. She
That's
can
great. I
apply.
love it. I have to say one quick story. When Walt Zosa, who's our partner in Trinidad and Tobago, he's part of our team, and Nigel Edwards, the CEO of UTC, sponsor of Scalerator, and another Dason Scott, we visited Manizales, Colombia, where we've had this program running now for 15 years and a lot of other things we've done to scale up the region. And we met in a factory where there was a family-run business, the husband, wife, etc. They were doing very well, growing very rapidly, but the parents didn't speak English, and we were really shocked, pleasantly shocked, when in this meeting, kind of intimidating these foreign visitors, very senior. This 10-year-old girl, who's the daughter of the owners, gets up and in perfect English she gives the pitch of the company. She tells what challenges they've been
That
having.
sounds like my kid.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Just one thing before you go, I want to
Sure.
make sure that I formally, on behalf of the Scalerator Association of Trinidad and Tobago, extend to you and to everyone else who is a part of our Scale Up Association, teachers, participants. We are going to have a little Christmas event. We're going to have an inter-cohort karaoke competition. And it's going to be on December 4th, and we'll be posting online details about location and tickets and things like that. But we would love to see everybody get together and maybe not always be in a conference or a seminar, just, relax, get to know each other from each other's cohorts and celebrate the season.
Sounds like a wonderful, wonderful activity. Well, with that heartwarming invitation, we're going to sign off now. And again, Reshma, Advani Rojas, thank you very much. You're very inspiring. I really hope we get lots of people listening to this because I think that this will give a lot of insight and also encouragement and support, just your words, for people to grow their businesses and maybe not just in the United States and in the UK and Germany and so on, but also in other parts of the world, such as the Caribbean, which I think has huge potential.
Yes, thank you for having me, Daniel. It's much appreciated.
So this is Dan Eisenberg, Scale App Podcast, signing off. Again, everybody, this is a serious hobby of mine. If you like it, well, like it and share it, get the word out because together we're building a huge amount of know-how of how you actually grow a business. So thank you all very much for listening and hope to hear you again soon.